Okay, so now let's discuss something about the superior orbital fissure. So, what are the contents of superior orbital fissure? So, where is the superior orbital fissure situated? We know the orbit is pear shaped. Towards its posterior end, it is having an apical shape. Now, it is this terminal point wherein the superior orbital fissure is located. It is located between the greater wing and the lesser wing of sphenoid bone. So the first thing you should know is this is what we call as the superior orbital fissure is. Now that is being divided into three segments by something called as the common tendinous ring. Common tendinous ring is formed by the extraocular muscles. This is actually the point of origin from where different muscles originate. This is the medial rectus, this is the superior rectus, this is the lateral rectus, this is the inferior rectus. So that's how these muscles start from. They form a common tendinous ring and then move anteriorly and get attached to the eyeball. So the clinical importance or the anatomical importance of the common tendinous ring is that it mainly divides the superior orbital fissure into three main parts. This is the superior part, this is the central part, and this is the inferior part. So in exams they ask what are the structures passing through the superior part of the superior orbital fissure. Structures passing through the central part of superior orbital fissure, structures passing through the inferior part. That's how they ask the questions as. So we know the structures passing from the diagram that these are the structures that passes, but it's very confusing to remember them in order and in their right locations. So there is a mnemonic to this, which is LFT. LFT, which is liver function test. L stands for lacrimal nerve, F stands for frontal nerve, and T stands for trochlear nerve. All these are structures which passes through the upper part of the superior orbital fissure. Now along with that there is a superior ophthalmic vein which makes up the superior division. Now the next thing is we have something called as the third cranial nerve. Third cranial nerve, if you can recollect from your MBBS time, it is called as the oculomotor nerve. Now this oculomotor nerve is having a superior division and an inferior division. So if you watch closely, you can find that this central part is formed by the superior division and the inferior divisions of the oculomotor nerve. This is the most important structure passing through the central part, the inferior and the superior divisions of oculomotor nerve. Now something we always forget is the next nerve, which is the nasociliary nerve. So this is very important. Remember that nasociliary nerve is a structure that passes through the center of the part of the superior orbital fissure. Along with that, we have the sixth cranial nerve, which is the abducent nerve. So please remember, this is a 10-mark question for your theory exams, and even ICO takes this topic as very important. So you should know this, how to draw this diagram thoroughly. So these are the oculomotor nerve, the abducent nerve, and the nasociliary nerve. Now we had a superior ophthalmic vein in the upper division. So there has to be an inferior ophthalmic vein. So this is the inferior ophthalmic vein, which is in the inferior part of the superior orbital fissure. Now they will ask you, what are the structures in the common tendinous ring? So these are structures in the common tendinous ring are structures in the central part of superior orbital fissure plus the optic canal. So optic canal means it is having the, as you can see in this diagram, it is the optic nerve, it is the optic nerve and the ophthalmic artery. So now we will just revise it once again. We have something called as a common tendinous ring, which actually divides the superior orbital fissure into three parts, and there is a superior part, central part, and the inferior part. The superior parts contains LFT plus a vein in the name of superior ophthalmic vein. The inferior division is having inferior ophthalmic vein. The central part is having mainly the third cranial nerve and the sixth cranial nerve and the sixth cranial nerve. Along with that, what we usually forget is the nasociliary nerve. Along with structures passing through the center of superior orbital fissure, which is the third oculomotor nerve, sixth abducent nerve, and the nasociliary nerve, we also, the superior and inferior divisions of oculomotor nerve is there. Along with that, there is also the optic canal structures, which is the optic nerve and the ophthalmic artery. So we have discussed only the superior orbital fissure here. I hope you remember from the diagram that this is the superior orbital fissure. This is the orbit we learned. Now this superior orbital fissure is divided by the common tendinous ring in this way. It is divided into 3 parts. This will have L, F and T. This will have the inferior ophthalmic vein. Along with LFT there is superior ophthalmic vein as well. The ophthalmic artery is in the optic canal. So this is the vein, and this is where the ophthalmic artery is, that is in the optic canal. Then this is where the 3rd cranial nerve and the 6th cranial nerve is. What we usually forget is the nasociliary nerve. And don't forget that 3rd nerve has a superior division and an inferior division in the superior orbital fissure. What I am trying to say here is there is a inferior orbital fissure here. So we have discussed superior orbital fissure. Now there is a inferior orbital fissure. Now what does the inferior orbital fissure transmit? It transmits maxillary nerve. Along with a emissary vein. So you know this is where the oculomotor nerve is. This is where the 6th nerve is. Maxillary division, you know, is actually a partition of the 5th or trigeminal nerve. So it has given out ophthalmic division, ophthalmic nerve. Don't confuse it with oculomotor or the optic nerve. This is a different nerve. We have not discussed it so far. Now this is where the maxillary nerve is going through. And after that there will be a mandibular nerve. Now you should also know what is this continuing as. The inferior orbital fissure is continuing as the inferior orbital canal, and as it is said here, this is going into the pterygopalatine fossa. So pterygopalatine fossa means this is something that is related to the pterygoid plexus. Speaking about pterygoid plexus, you should know that there is this emissary vein which we discussed is passing through the inferior orbital fissure, is actually connecting the ophthalmic vein to the pterygoid plexus. So we have already discussed ophthalmic veins here. that was the superior ophthalmic vein and the inferior ophthalmic veins. Now these veins are connected by a emissary vein to the pterygoid plexus. So the question for today is, the oculomotor nerve divides after passing through the superior orbital fissure. Is it true or false?